So I guess moving on, my number 6 is Kingdom Hearts 3, which I know some of the diehard fans really didn't like this one, but it's just so fun. I don't know how you can not enjoy this game, even if... I mean, yeah, there's some weird stuff that happens in the story that it doesn't end as well as I'd like it to. But I don't know, I feel like that is kind of the whole series, is like convoluted, not so great storytelling, but like really fun gameplay. So
Yeah.
there was also...
You're here.
Sorry.
You're here because it's fun to swing your keyblade, and it looks absolutely gorgeous when you chain all these combos.
Right.
Not necessarily because you care about Goofy getting hit on the head or whatever happens.
That's just the end of the game. No, you spoiled it for everyone.
Oh
If he gets hit
no!
on the
Spoilers
head,
if you haven't.
the credits roll.
Yeah, Goofy is dead. I'm sorry to have to break it to you, kiddos, but he didn't make it out of this one.
Yeah. This is another one that has a fantastic soundtrack. Yoko Shimomura is back. And this is, like,
Yes.
probably one of her best. I don't know, that's so debatable.
I've got to see if I can get a copy of the soundtrack.
It's very good. And it's the graphics, of course, are incredible. They moved to Unreal Engine 4. It runs at... Right now, it's not on PC, so the enhanced consoles are, like, the best way to play it right now. It doesn't run at a smooth 60, but I don't know, the way they... There's kind of like some per object motion blur that kind of makes it look better. I don't know, it wasn't as distracting as games with unlocked frame rates typically are.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this one, honestly, because, I don't have a PS4, so I don't have a way to play it. I mean, my roommates do, but usually one of them is using the TV for something else, so, like, I don't have a lot of opportunities to play it. I live in a house with a copy of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I don't have any way to play it.
Oh my gosh. That's really tough.
Yeah, I don't know how I've managed to survive. Well, also, I need to bone up on the whole Kingdom Hearts lore in general before I go into 3, because I've heard that they just sort of... They don't really hold your hand too well on that.
They assume you've not only played and are very familiar with the plots of the first two, but all of the spin-offs. I mean, every single one of them is referenced, including Dream Drop Distance, which if you didn't play that one and that weird, like, 0.2, whatever that thing with Aqua was, like, if you didn't play those, they just assume you've played those two most recently, because it picks up immediately where those left off. So it's not a good one to start with if you care at all about plot.
Yeah, so I'll have to see if there's a I don't know, if there's like a playlist on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
That I can just zip through the main story and then play 3. Yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say about Kingdom Hearts 3?
I guess the last thing I would say is I wasn't a big fan of the worlds that they picked. There weren't a lot of, like, Disney classics in there. There wasn't a great variety, I felt, but every single world was more interesting and more alive feeling than any game in the past. Like, this kind of got rid of that basic dungeon room with a theme from a Disney movie. Like, every other game kind of felt like you were going through static areas with backdrops of Disney movies, and this one, like, truly felt like you were in them. Oh,
they actually added NPCs,
yes.
Didn't they?
There are actual NPCs now. I can't believe that hasn't been a thing, but it's finally here.
Finally. I can't believe we've gone so long without. We just have to wait for them to re-release the entire series on PlayStation 5, and they'll go back and they'll add it.
So now we're just waiting on Fallout 76 to get those NPCs, right?
I actually would love to play... I would love to play an updated Kingdom Hearts 2, because that is my favorite. I love that game so much.
Yeah. It's very good. Anyways, let's move on to your next pick.
Okay. So I have Untitled Goose Game.
Good choice.
It is. It is kind of a joke, but it is very. It is a very fun joke. It you play as this goose wandering around this little English, this like little sleepy English town, and you have a task list of things to do that involve basically ruining everybody's day. So you start out with a gardener, and you have to lock the gardener out of the garden. You have to steal his keys. You have to gather a bunch of different objects and bring them over to a little blanket for your own like goose picnic. And it's just you have all the powers of a goose. You can walk, or you can run. You can flap your wings, and you can honk.
All the essentials.
And you use all of these to interact with the world, and just cause all sorts of chaos. And as you go through your list, like more of the world, like the people will react to you, and they'll open up the world to you. So like one of them will open a gate, and then you can go explore the town, and then it's very fun. It's very funny. It's a very short game.
That's what I've heard.
So it's if you have a couple hours, you could easily like lose yourself in it. I would say probably it's best if you like figure out how to solve all the things, because it's sort of like a puzzle game.
Yeah, I have played a little bit. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, go on.
I was going to say, I played a little bit on my friend's Switch, so I have about 20 minutes of the game under my belt. So I know, like, generally how it plays, but I really wanted to get a chance to play the whole thing, and I just didn't have the time or money. So...
Yeah, I played my roommate's copy.
Oh, okay.
And I played it to completion. It's very short. The puzzles feel very satisfying to solve on your own. I would say I personally wouldn't put this as game of the year, but I feel like it is. It's definitely worth noting.
Right.
I'm just happy that it exists, and I'm happy that I got to play it.
I'm excited to see what they do next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very clever. It's very cute. Check it out if you haven't already.
Yeah, it's now coming out on PS4 and Xbox One as well. They just recently announced that. So.
Oh, nice.
So my number 5 is another 3. This would be Luigi's Mansion 3.
You're not going to believe this, but that's my next one.
Are you serious? All right, we'll just talk about it together then. I'll be honest, like, I wasn't really all that excited for it going into it. It didn't look fantastic, and I kind of wasn't watching they spoiled everything in the trailers leading up to the game, and so I just avoided any and all, like, contact with video footage of it. So this was, like, the best surprise of the year. I was not expecting to enjoy this one as much as I did. And it kind of feels like a game that's made for me, because I really like small areas that are, like, they have a lot of stuff in them. They're very compact. There's a lot of little secrets to find. Like, I love finding secrets. I love interacting with little things in the environment. And this is basically an entire game of that.
Yeah, so, Luigi and his friends, this time he's bringing his friends, but Luigi receives an invitation to stay at a hotel. So he and Mario and Princess Peach and a couple of Toads all drive to this hotel. And, it's just very, very cute, very, very glamorous, high-rise, and in the middle of the mountains or whatever. And they check in, and Luigi falls asleep, wakes up, everything is not glittering anymore. It's haunted and spooky, and there are literal, like, jump scares. There's, like, a claw on a spring that pops out of a drawer.
Yeah.
and find out, oh no, it's King Boo up to his old tricks again, and he's caught all your friends and put them in paintings. And so you have to go through the mansion. You meet up with Egad, and you get the Poltergust G00, or the Poltergust Goo.
Oh yeah, you had to have liked Luigi. I mean, it's like a slime Luigi.
It's no secret if you're an avid listener to Quadratix media. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of slimes.
I literally thought of that just now. I was like, oh my gosh, I bet this is like Charles' favorite Mushroom Kingdom character now.
I really like Gooigi. I think he's very fun. We can talk a little bit more about how Gooigi fits into this in a little bit here. But it's basically the standard premise of a Luigi's Mansion game. King Boo has he has put all your friends in portraits, and he has hidden those portraits throughout the hotel, and so you have to find them. The only problem is that the ghosts have stolen the elevator buttons, so you have to try and find those so that you can explore more of the hotel, so you can find more paintings. And that's kind of the premise of it. It's like I don't know, like 20 or so levels.
Yeah, I think there's 24, or I don't know. There's a lot. I add so much to this podcast.
No, you're good. You're good. There are a lot of stages. It is, I would say it's a good blend of the original and the second games. Mm-hmm. It is more like the first game than the second. It certainly has a lot more personality than the second game had.
It does. I think the biggest difference is the original game was kind of a bit more like a Metroidvania, where there was a lot more backtracking, and this one is kind of like each floor, there's backtracking within the floor, but unless you're going back for collectibles, there's not really, or, something that may happen in the story a couple different times that may have you going back to other floors, but for the most part, like, you finish a floor and you're done with it. Mm-hmm. So...
Yeah, it is. It takes place in a single, you're in the one building. In the second game, you went to different mansions, and there was like a mission based structure, so you would constantly get yanked in and out of the mansion, and it was really jarring. I just want to keep exploring this mansion. Yeah. Why can't I at least do that? This one feels a lot more like the first. It's a single building, but it is like each floor is basically its own contained level, and it feels like I still sort of prefer the original, where it was there was a lot more backtracking,
yep.
And exploring and familiarity with the layout, but I feel like they did a really good job kind of blending the first two games together.
Yeah.
For this one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think
like each level each level is entirely unique. They each have their own themes. There's one, there's like the Boiler Works where it's down in the basement. There's like one that's themed on like the tomb suites. It's like an ancient Egypt. There's a lot of sand everywhere. Yeah. There's the one that's like a greenhouse that's overrun with plants.
There's one that's got an entire mini ocean, and I'm not sure how that would stand on that building, but physics need not apply in this game, I guess.
No, yeah, you shouldn't question it too hard when it's a ghost house.
It's ghost magic, right?
Yeah, exactly, ghost magic.
I would say, like, this is... Playing through it, it was like kind of a near perfect game for me. My two biggest issues would be the fact that King Boo is still the boss at the end, because how can they not come up with a second big intimidating boss? I mean, it's like Star Fox, it's like, why is Andros the final boss in every game? I
was excited and then consequently let down when it turned out that Helen Gravely
Yeah,
wasn't the final boss.
I thought she was going to be the final boss. Her boss fight was more fun, I felt, than King Boo's.
Her boss fight was a better final test of everything that you learned throughout the game than King Boo's was. King Boo's was just like an obstacle course.
And then my second issue would be that the combat feels a little bit more simplified. It's just kind of all about getting that slam.
Yeah.
You basically pull back. In the other games, like you would pull against, you'd use the analog stick to pull against the tug of the ghost, and then that would kind of drain the ghost's health faster. Dark Moon had the same kind of thing, but you would like get special charges that would take like 20 HP, I think, or 10 HP. It would take like a larger sum, and you could charge that up like for 2 different times. And then this one is just kind of about achieving a kind of giant slam move where you slam the ghost back and forth. And it's satisfying at first, but it just, you get it way too easily, I felt.
Yeah, the original game, it felt like more of an earnest struggle with the ghosts. The second game, they added more mechanics to aid you in capturing ghosts.
Yeah.
And I kind of liked that. This third one, it gives you more tools for crowd control.
Right.
But you're very rarely crowded in this game.
That's
like other ghosts kind of watch you.
their turn.
They don't necessarily. You're never crowded.
Yeah.
I will say it is fun to slam a giant ghost into a crowd of smaller ghosts. Absolutely. That always feels good. But I still think ultimately I prefer the way that combat worked in the original.
Yeah, I would say my overall preference, like rating for the series, would be the original 3 and then Dark Moon. And I think this game does everything better except combat than Dark Moon, which is why it's so high on the list.
I would definitely agree. I'll just say one last thing, and then we ought to move on because I'm sure we could spend all night talking about Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, see, the problem is Charles and I haven't talked about these games like in private very much, so.
So yeah, this is just us. This is just us talking to each other. I have mixed feelings about the way boos were incorporated into this game. I thought they were incorporated very poorly because they're barely a thing at all.
Yeah.
However, I thoroughly enjoyed slamming them around.
That was like the speeding up, like as you just mash the button. It was so satisfying. Yeah, I would agree with that. That sums up my thoughts pretty well. They just kind of felt like they were an afterthought.
Yeah. Like the game would not have suffered if they hadn't been included.
Right. Okay, moving on. My number 4 is one that might surprise you, Charles. Not anyone else, but Astral Chain.
What?
Well, just because I think I told you I wasn't really loving it when I first started playing it. And part of that was my fault. So the game starts you on assisted mode, and the tutorial first level is way too easy. And then after that, I was like, as soon as they gave me the option to turn on to normal mode, I was like, well, I've played action games before. I turned that on, and that's basically the game's hard mode. But I really feel they shouldn't have labeled it normal mode.
It's like when Beautiful Joe gives you the difficulty menu and it says the options are kids and adults. And so you pick adults because, I don't want to play baby mode. And then the game is brutally difficult.
Right. I just feel like calling it normal is, at least with kids and adult, you can see it's a joke. But this, I was like, oh, okay, normal. So I played that, and basically that's the mode that they expect you to be playing after you finish the game. Which they kind of allude to, but, again, they kind of made it sound like if you've played a Platinum game before, you should be good. And I got my butt handed to me so many times early on, and I switched it to assisted mode, and it was suddenly I was like, oh, I just needed to learn the mechanics better. On normal mode, they just throw way too much at you way too early on. But once I did that, this game is so much fun. It takes a while to get used to controlling 2 different characters. You do control, you have these I don't know what to call them because the game, it's a Japanese game and it's very complicated. But
There's cyber demons.
yeah, they're kind of ghost-like though because normal people can't see them.
Cyber ghost demons.
Sure, sure. So you get different ones. Each one has like a different power and a different attack style, and then your character also has like 3 different weapons. So you have a lot to manage when you're playing this. There's also like items, like you can throw grenades and whatnot, and they kind of give you most of that stuff way too early on. Which, if you're playing on assisted mode, is fine. But basically, I played through the whole game then on assisted, and then I went back and started replaying it on normal, and it was like, okay, well, this is how it's meant to be played, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very, very fun action game. It doesn't run phenomenally, which is a bummer. It does run at 30 FPS as opposed to the usual 60 that you'd expect from a Platinum Games title. And it doesn't always keep to 30, but this is like easily one of the best looking games on the Switch.
Okay. And what did you think of it story-wise?
It was okay. The characters are not the best. The story is more interesting than the characters. And the voice acting is atrocious most of the time.
Yeah, I remember you showing me some of the horrible voice acting.
I mean, like, normally it kind of sounds more like the Weeb option to go to Japanese audio, but I would definitely recommend it. Because it definitely pulls you out of the experience. It feels like developers or maybe family members of the developers were like, or the translators, I guess, were dragged in to record for it, but it actually takes you out of the story. It's so bad.
Golly.
But it's weird. I couldn't tell before I got the game if it was like open world or level based, and it kind of has larger areas, but it's all the areas you visit or revisit are based on the story. So it's not like a true linear game, but it's also like progression is linear, but there's a lot of exploring and side missions to do like it's an open world game within a linear level, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
Okay. So, yeah, it's very cool. Very good.
I've got this one in my wish list. I haven't had an opportunity to play it myself, but when I do get the chance, it's one that I am looking at, that I'm interested in trying out.
Okay. It's a good length, too. It's like a good 35 hours if you do everything.
Okay. That certainly beats the typical 80 to 120 that a JRPG asks you for. Yes.
So what's your next game?
Next for me, I've got Pokemon Sword and Shield. I've been playing Pokemon Shield specifically because it has one of the best Pokemon available that you can get. It's got Appleton.
Yeah, I wondered why you picked Shield. You're telling me you were going to get Sword.
I like the Sword Doggo more than the Shield Doggo.
Yeah.
But Appleton.
Okay.
Appleton is
Appleton.
It's an apple pie shaped dragon. It's for me. They made this game for me.
It's a TV shaped like an apple.
Oh boy, I can't wait till we get to talk about Animal Crossing: New Horizons. Oh man, that's gonna be my game of the year next year. What is Pokemon Sword and Shield? It is the next mainline Pokemon game since Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It runs on the Nintendo Switch, and if you've played any mainline Pokemon game in the past ever, then you've more or less played Pokemon Sword and Shield. It mechanically runs the same. There are like a few quality of life changes that they've made. There are things like you can access the Pokemon box from anywhere. You don't have to be in the Pokemon Center. You can see all the wild Pokemon. There are a couple like when you go into the grass, like you can tell if you're about to get like a random one because like a little exclamation point will appear in the grass, and then you'll see like grass clippings like move towards you. So they've made like a lot of changes. There's like a whole area dedicated to. It's called the Wild Area. It's this huge open area where you can move the camera around and look for Pokemon. The story is the main. Here's the thing. I haven't quite finished the game yet, but the story so far is not good. I've heard that the after game or the after, like the post game content, I've heard is very good, and should have been the main story. But the main story is not my favorite. But I'm really enjoying it. Battling feels just as good as ever. A lot of the things that the quality of life stuff adds up. It just makes it feel a lot better to battle and train your Pokemon. And I don't know. I'm really not the best person to talk about Pokemon because, I don't know all I don't know much about EVs and IVs, and I just, I'm a very, very casual player. But I've been enjoying it. I wouldn't say that it is the game of the year, but I've enjoyed it. Okay. Have you had a chance to play it?
I have.
What do you think about it? I've been rambling and haven't.
Well, let's not get into that. Let's stay on the positives here.
Okay. What can you say positively about this game?
I like the soundtrack.
The soundtrack is good. It's slapping.
Yes. I like the concept of the wild area, and I like the concept of the raid battles.
Mm-hmm. The execution perhaps could use a little bit of TLC.
Just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of thoughts, but I don't want to make this a video about me talking about Pokemon Sword and Shield. But
alrighty, what's I think you're next.
Yes, let me look at my list. Okay, so top three now. Katana Zero is my number 3. This is
you've told me about this a number of times.
Yes, it was a game made by one person, which is I'm always amazed by those.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, I think it took him like 7 years to develop this in Game Maker. And then, like, by the time he was finishing it up, like, the Switch was already out and popular. So, and Game Maker has like a mode that you can just instantly port it to Switch with like very simple controls. So, it's a cyberpunk ninja assassin thing. It's extremely dark. It's absolutely M-rated in every way. But it has branching dialogue trees, incredible writing. It's got a great soundtrack. It's just got a lot of very interesting themes. And it's one of those games where like choices actually do kind of matter. There's even one that can end the game very early. So there's 2 endings of the game. And I won't spoil what happens, but it's a very story-driven game. The combat itself is done. You have a drug in you that allows you to essentially see the future or see future outcomes. So the part of the gameplay that you're actually controlling is like future visions. So you just keep doing the run until you get it right, and you die in one hit, and every enemy in the game dies in one hit. So it's all about getting everything perfect. You can slow down time, reflect bullets back at people, grab like vases and stuff and smash them into people. And when you get like a perfect run, then you get to see your character then actually do those things in like at full speed. And it's very satisfying.
Ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
So it kind of plays a little bit like Ninja Gaiden, but a lot faster. And there's a lot more like aerial-based combat.
Would you say it plays good?
Unlike Ninja Gaiden. But that's fair enough.
Are you talking about like classic Ninja Gaiden
or NES Ninja Gaiden?
The one that we played?
Yes.
Oof. No, actually, I think I enjoyed it. It has its its own trappings, but I think it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I wanted to play this one. It's just that there have been stuff that I've wanted to play more.
Sure, sure. Yeah, there's lots of stuff I'd like to talk about. I just can't because there are absolute spoilers for the game. But there's stuff that kind of makes you question what's happening within the game itself too.
Uh huh.
And I would love to talk about that. There's one boss battle in particular near the end that is really crazy. I've never seen a game do something like this with a boss fight before, but that's all I will say.
Very exciting. I wish that I had more to say about it, but I fortunately have not played it.
So I guess we'll move on to your number 3. That's not in order.
This would actually be my number 2 because we've had a
Oh, that's
couple
right,
that match up. This and again, these aren't ranked. They're just listed in order of release, more or less. Actually, I think I added this one because I skipped over it when I was writing my list. It is Spyro: The Reignited Trilogy.
I saw you got that.
Yes. I got it for my birthday on PC, and I played a bunch of that, and then yesterday I bought it for the Switch, and it's good. I grew up with Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, and I was very excited when Crash Bandicoot the Insane Trilogy was announced, because I've often when I was a child, I considered myself very much a bigger fan of Crash than Spyro. And so when I finally got to play the Reignited Trilogy, I was disappointed because it didn't feel the same as I remembered it. Crash controls very, very differently from how he did in the old days.
I have so many I have so many jokes I want to make, but I hate Crash Bandicoot, by the way, for anyone listening. It's just so I'm trying to hold my tongue here.
No, you're it's perfectly valid. Crash Bandicoot is not the game for everybody, but it's what I grew up with.
Right.
And
You also
this
played
kind
Bubsy
of
3D.
I did also play Bubsy 3D as a child, and I thought it was the coolest game ever. So take whatever I say with a very large grain of salt.
Anyways, you're saying Spyro.
But it kind of made me realize and sort of like rethink how I felt about these characters that I'd grown up with, and I realized that I tended to, like, even though I consider myself a larger fan of Crash Bandicoot than Spyro, I spent more time with Spyro than I ever did with Crash. Like I can think of more times that I spent playing Spyro's games than I can think of times that I played Crash.
Yeah, see, subconsciously you knew which was the better series.
Exactly. My heart knew what it wanted. And so I was just like everybody else. I was waiting and waiting and waiting because like we all knew that it was going to happen. It had to happen, and they finally announced Spyro Reignited Trilogy. And it is, I would consider, a far more faithful remake than what they did with Crash. Spyro feels so good to control.
It looks really fun. It looks like it's just the same games, but like way better looking.
Yes, it is. It's exactly that. There are like a couple of things, like they redid the voices, and there's some that is like, I miss hearing them the way that they sounded, but that is a small gripe when you consider that this is, I don't even know, early 90s, I guess.
Late 90s. 98 was the first one.
So this is like a game that's over 20 years old.
Right.
At this point, that is being reintroduced to the modern generation, and it is incredible how well these games hold up.
Yeah, I played the original PS1 games again a couple years ago, and I was amazed by how fun they were, like playing the PS1 versions. So I'm imagining they're even better, way better now.
Yeah, they're very good. It's extremely faithful. I would say if you are a big fan of 3D platformers and you haven't played Spyro, or you have in the past, then the Spyro Reignited trilogy is a great way to play three of the best.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say in term, like, I know that Crash is often lumped with the 3D platformers. I would say Spyro is a lot closer to something like Mario 64 than Crash is. Crash is more like a 3D side scroller. Spyro has more of a playground sort of sandbox kind of
Yeah.
quality to it. So yeah, that was my.
So
That's
number two?
Yep.
Okay, so you got one more. My number two, I went back and forth on which one was going to be my personal game of the year. But ultimately, well, you'll see which game got number one. But Fire Emblem Three Houses is my number two. And aside from some performance issues, which have been somewhat patched out, I would say, it performs way better now than it did at launch, and some kind of ugly GameCube era graphics. It is so much fun. This is one of the best Fire Emblem games in the series, in my opinion. It definitely has some of the best characters too. I've never wanted to see all of the support conversations among all of my characters as much as I did in this game.
I haven't played it, so I don't have a
Okay.
lot to say. I've only played Fire Emblem Echoes of Valentia,
Okay.
and I haven't even played very far into that. I think I got to the part where you first get to play as Celica.
Okay. So it's about
that's
a quarter
that-
of the way through the game, I want to say.
Yeah, well, I'll say this: I made it a lot farther than I did in Fates.
You mean Awakening?
Oh yeah, Awakening.
Yeah.
Where I got stabbed to death as the Pegasus Knight, and then said,
Yeah.
"Well, this isn't for me."
Yeah, this one kind of takes a similar theme to Fates, where you have a branching path, although it branches 3, but technically 4 ways. I won't spoil what 4th way that is, but it's all on one game, rather than making you buy separate ones. They are more similar than the branching paths of Fates, but this one really does make you question which side you chose more than the past ones, I would say, more than Fates did. There's some like real moral dilemmas, and one of the routes I went down, I just like I would have times where I felt like, okay, I think we're doing the right thing, and then times where it's like, no, we just did something really terrible, and I had to be a part of it, all because of where I put my allegiance. But it's very good. It has a very good story too. This is definitely, from a story and character perspective, this is one of the strongest games in the series, I would say. The characters still have those kind of traditional anime tropes, but there's so much more depth to them. There's some pretty dark stuff that happened to some of these people that makes them the way that they are.
Oofa.
So they do a better job explaining why. It's not just like, Gaius in Awakening, where he's like, oh, I'm the candy guy. I love candy. And that's just his thing, Or
My thing is that I fall into traps.
Yeah, that was Setsu. I was just gonna reference that one. But yeah, I won't go into like why it happens, because it's a pretty intense moment. But like one of the characters basically doesn't want to talk to anyone, freaks out at everything, and hides in a room all day. And when you find out the reason why that is, it's pretty twisted.
Oof.
It has some like really dark, bad parenting stuff.
Oh, golly.
So
Oof, that would hit home a little too closely, I think.
Yeah, so very good game. I don't know what else to say about it. It doesn't look good, but give it a shot anyways. I mean,
It doesn't look good, but It doesn't look good, but it will surprise you if you give it
Yes.
some affection.
It also is fully voice acted. I mean, every single line of the game.
Uh huh.
Unlike a certain other RPG that had way more budget this year.
Oh, which one would that be?
A certain one about pocket monsters, I think.
Oh no. I mean, oh no. That's a whole discussion.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm not trying to get onto that. We should move on to the next game.
No, you're good. I guess I'll do the last one on my list.
Okay.
It is, and I threw this one like right in the middle, so I didn't really gather my thoughts about it. But just kind of in generally, Nintendo Switch Online.
What?
The specifically
What?
the Nintendo Switch Online, specifically like the Super Nintendo games. They brought back Kirby and Star Fox. I played some of those. I guess it doesn't really count.
We'll let it count. It counts more than Mario Kart Tour.
Yeah, Mario Kart Tour it doesn't count really as anything other than an idle game with a subscription service and loot boxes.
Okay. Well.
Golly, you know what? There wasn't as much meat on that bone as there could have been. And I feel a little bit foolish.
Pretty quickly, because we've already talked a good deal about my number one, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Besides, like, if we're counting non-Nintendo franchises, I would say Resident Evil is probably my favorite non-Nintendo franchise. I absolutely adore this series, the lore, the characters, the kind of cheesy atmosphere, but really intense moments, very memorable moments. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this one. Like, the pacing is just so perfect in Resident Evil 2. Like, this is vying with Resident Evil 4 in my mind for, like, best Resident Evil game ever.
Ooh. That's another one that I need to play at some point.
Yeah.
I somehow have managed to go my entire life without playing it.
I went a large portion of it, to be honest. I played, like, all the old tank control ones first, before I played any of the snappier, like, third-person shooter ones.
Golly, I gotta pick one of these to put as my game of the year, and it's honestly it's tough because I think it would be Resident Evil 2 or Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one. Hold on. Unless I'm mistaken, there's another game. Let me look this up real quick.
Hold the phones, folks. We might have a surprise guest.
When did this come out? I thought so. I thought for sure. I did, like, I was kind of trying to predict what your number one game would be, and it was between, I didn't know you played Resident Evil 2. It was between Luigi's Mansion 3 and Risk of Rain 2.
Ooh, that's right.
And I just checked, it did come out in March of this year, so.
Ooh.
Does that change anything?
Ooh.
I mean, that's probably the game I've heard you gush the most about.
You know what? I'm going to take Nintendo Switch Online off the list. I'm going to talk about Risk of Rain for a second.
Okay.
Risk of Rain 2 is it's a sequel to Risk of Rain 1. The original was
You feel just like a Risk of Rain.
Oh boy! Finally, I am the Risk of Rain, son of Rain. I don't know. The original was a side scroller pixelated roguelike game where you would pick a survivor. It would be like there's like the commando or the huntress, there's the convict or whatever, and you would run around these stages, fight monsters. You would find the teleporter, activate that, fight a boss, and move on to the next stage, and rinse and repeat. You would go to different stages, fight different monsters and bosses, and you would collect a bunch of items, and these would, like, the more you find, these would, like, all stack. So, like, you could get several pairs of glasses that, like, each pair that you collect stacks and would, like, add on to, like, how many critical hits you can get, and so on. So the second one is a third-person 3D roguelike. It follows the same basic structure where you run around a 3D environment, you try to find the teleporter, and you as you fight enemies, you gain gold, which you can use to purchase upgrades from these chests that are littered on each stage. And where the chests are and where the teleporter is always different each run. So you're running around collecting all these items, fighting enemies. You start the teleporter, and while that's charging, you have to fight a boss and move on. Then once you defeat it, you collect an item from them, and then move on to the next. And it is this may sound like a kind of a negative thing, but it's sort of a brainless game. Where I find it very relaxing to just, like I'll put on a podcast or something and start playing this game, and I can play for hours and hours and hours, and it's a lot of fun to play by yourself. You can play with other players. I'm not sure what the limit on that is, because I haven't had a chance to play it with anyone else yet.
Okay.
But it is I thoroughly enjoy it, and they actually just released an update that adds a character from the original game. I think they're called Acrid. They're like this little poisonous like sludge beast thing that's like this purple dog that's like dripping like green poison. And it's a lot of fun. It's very silly. The items that you collect are physically rendered on your character, so you can see them wearing some. Like it doesn't. If you collect like several pairs of the glasses, it will only show you the one. But each item that you have is represented on your character. So like you eventually become like this hulking mass of items with just like a bunch of junk hanging off of your character, and it's very silly.
That sounds pretty great.
Yeah, it's a very it'd be very challenging. It is brutal. But one of the nice things I like about it is like a lot of the achievements don't require you to be on hard mode to unlock. There are a couple that do. But for the most part, like if you just want to like just kind of zen out a little bit, you put it on easy mode and you can just kind of.
And it just becomes sort of Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, I guess kind of. But yeah, I have invested a significant amount of time. I think last time I checked, I had sunk like 29 or so hours.
Wow.
Into it.
Okay.
So I like it a lot, and that's my game of the year. No. I think I would put that in the top 3 between Resident Evil 2, Luigi's Mansion 3, and Risk of Rain 2.
Okay. So I did call 2 of yours. I didn't know you had played Resi 2, but...
Yep.
So that's it.
Yeah, well, I guess that's it. Gosh, what happens now?
We never were good at ending these. So
no.
2.5 years later, nothing's changed.
I don't know. I put on my. I've kind of like drafted up what my New Year's resolutions are, and one of them isn't like strictly a New Year's resolution. It's more of like a stretch goal.
Okay.
Like because I have like 3 main things that I want to work on just personally. But then, like, as a stretch goal, I put down, like, I want to start a podcast. So maybe part of that is we could sort of revive Quadratix.
I was thinking that.
And, try and make this a more regular thing. We could try and find a more interesting structure or angle or something.
We definitely, we definitely need segments.
But look forward to hearing more because I absolutely would love to record more often.
Okay. I'll have to see if we can get some more people
I miss doing
on, too.
it. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I picked 3 games for Game of the Year. Zach picked 1, and
I would like to have included more than 1, but
Mario Kart Tour isn't a game.
It is.
I think those are the takeaways from today's discussion.
There's 2019 in general, I think. Just That last one, though, at least. That Mario Kart Tour is not a game.
Yeah, especially that just sort of speaks to the whole market.
Yep.
Honestly. Alrighty. Well, you think that's it?
Sure. If you're actually listening to this and you made it this far, go ahead and put your game of the year in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you enjoyed. We'd love to hear about it. Let us know if you have any ideas for like a format or segment. If you enjoy listening to us talk and you want us to have like more of a structure, give us some ideas. We'll be thinking about it as well. But yeah, just give us your feedback. We hope that you enjoyed listening. I certainly had a good time talking about video games with you. I always do.
Yep, same.
And if there's nothing else to be said, then I guess we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for
Probably
listening.
in 2020.
Yep, see ya in 2020.